Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Jeanne Francine. 6:50 here on the East Coast this Thursday morning, and we continue with your breaking news headlines, giving you another live look at our XRAD system as we continue to discuss Hurricane Helene. And let's be honest, natural disasters can be a scary time, especially when evacuation orders are underway. At this hour, 4 states have declared a state of emergency due to the impact and unknown of Hurricane Helene. Joining us live this morning to further discuss the fear surrounding Helene is Dr. Carol Lieberman, forensic psychiatrist, also known as America's psychiatrist. Good morning to you, Dr. Lieberman. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
So we know, as we just heard with that previous hit with Fox 13 Tampa, if you live in the Sunshine State or surrounding states, maybe you're on edge this morning because you don't know what will happen, the worst that will happen. But there are also loved ones in other states this morning who are worried about their family members that live in the state of Florida and surrounding areas. Could you put all of this into perspective for us, please?
Sure. Well, it's reasonable to have some fear, as you see that we feel like sitting ducks, right? We hear that this storm, the hurricane is getting closer and closer. And of course, it's a question of should we go, should we stay? And, it's hard to pick up and go. You want to stay in your cozy little house. But, if it's been declared, if you have a warning to go, you obviously should. Beyond the normal fear, and what it is a fear of hurricanes and tornadoes. For hurricanes, what it is a fear of the rain, which of course becomes flood. So we're afraid of being swallowed up by these floods. And then there's the wind, and we're afraid of being blown away, essentially, by the wind. We can't control Mother Nature, and so that's how it becomes incredibly scary. But then, so there's a reasonable degree of fear, healthy fear that helps you to figure out what to do. But then there's unhealthy fear, exaggerated fear. And the name of that is lelapsophobia. And that comes from the Greek word lelaps, which means a violent storm. And phobia, of course, is beyond just anxiety and regular fear, but it's a much more severe kind of fear. And that is a stronger, a more severe condition than astrophobia, which is a fear of thunder and lightning. And, that is sort of one of the early fears that children may have. But then, of course, it can progress to lelapsophobia. And the problem with that, lelapsophobia, is that then it gets in the way of you being able to figure out the best things to do, the way to take care of yourself, and you're just in a state of panic.
I'm so glad you mentioned that sometimes fear can be healthy. It shows that you have natural emotions, right? But I want to look at the other side for those that might not be scared at all. And unfortunately, it could lead to their detriment. You have those people that think they are Superwoman or Superman and they can weather any storm. Those are the people you see skateboarding out in the middle of a hurricane, Dr. Lieberman. How important is it to heed those warnings from local officials, and have a sense of urgency and not be complacent and feel like you won't be impacted even though evacuation orders are underway?
Yes, what that is, things like skateboarding in the middle of a flood and so on, in the middle of a hurricane, that is a counterphobic behavior. So in other words, you really are scared, but to try to prove to yourself you're not scared, you go do something totally risky and very dangerous, to say, oh, I'm not scared. There's nothing to be scared about is what you're trying to tell yourself. So really, what's interesting too, is that the reason why people develop these extra fears, these unhealthy fears, is because, first of all, some of it can be genetic. If you have a family member, if you've inherited an anxiety disorder or a depressive disorder, that can make you more vulnerable, more susceptible to developing lelapsophobia, this extreme fear of hurricanes. And also environmental things. So, for example, if you're a child and you're growing up in a family and you see your parents or other relatives really frightened, super frightened when hurricanes come, that's teaching you you should be that frightened. And similarly, stories that we see, like, for example, The Wizard of Oz, that was a tornado. where that Dorothy gets caught up in. And so it really presents this idea of, oh, that for a lot of children, that's their first exposure to what a tornado is. And then there was this movie Twister with Helen Hunt. And the story there is that her father was killed in a tornado. And so she has a particular extra sensitivity. She has an unhealthy fear of tornadoes because of what she experienced, because of how damaging she saw that it could be. So all of these things come together to form each person's attitude towards, when they hear these kinds of extreme weather events are coming.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, always a pleasure to speak with you here on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate your expertise on this topic. Before we let you go, I want to ask you, are there any words of encouragement you could provide to the viewers to uplift their spirits? We do know as we are sharing this information real time, it can be scary, but we also know for certain people it's their faith. For others, it's words of affirmation. Anything you could potentially share to give the viewers a sense of ease this morning?
Sure. Well, there are a number of things that you can do. First of all, hopefully you have prepared, because of all the warnings that you heard. And if you haven't prepared enough, you can still go out and depending upon where you live, you can still go out and do things like, getting gas and getting food and water and things like that. You can also practice relaxation techniques like meditation or listening to calming music. Social support is very important. So hopefully it's really not good to be alone in a house or in anywhere where you're trying to cope with this yourself. I mean, not just in terms of physically, it being dangerous, but just psychologically, you have to have contact with other people to keep yourself calm. And of course, in the longer range, there's therapy for this. There is therapy such as desensitization, where, for example, they show you a picture of a hurricane, then a video of a hurricane, then you look out the window, if there is a hurricane. I mean, gradually you get desensitized to it. And then, of course, talk therapy, which is where you get to some of these deeper reasons for why you're so scared, like, for example, when you saw Wizard of Oz.
Dr. Lieberman, thank you again for joining us this Thursday morning. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and be safe on your end.
Thank you. You too.